Hallmarkies Podcast. I'm your host, Kaycee. Today I have the fabulous Kari and Jess. Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
You guys. I am so happy that we are recapping mysteries because mysteries are my jam. And with COVID and everything, I was really worried that we weren't going to get a whole ton of mysteries because in past years they've done the mystery marathons. Yeah. And you have like the garage sale mysteries and there were like 4 in a row. And then you had all these other ones. And it was like, I think 2019, they really brought their game for the mysteries.
Yeah.
So
in fact, I was looking some of the series that had maybe 3, they're into the series like 3 mysteries or something. One of them, I'm so sorry, this is such a bad story because I can't remember the exact name of the show, but it was like 3 were in a row in 2019 even. So they really did start to beef it up in 2019. So I was so glad that they could keep it up as much as they have been. To have 3 already in 2021 is pretty great.
I think so.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that it seems that they're spacing them out. So we had 1 in January, we had 2 in February. We're going to have, I think, 2 in March.
Yep.
So enough to keep us going. And we know that they are filming a bunch of Aurora Tea Gardens, or they've already filmed a bunch of Aurora Tea Gardens. I think at least 2.
At least 2 we
know of.
Yeah.
So series that just keeps going.
It just keeps going. Oh, girl, let's do this, Aurora.
Yeah. So we are here to talk about January and February mysteries, which are Martha's Vineyard, Ships in the Night, Crossword Mysteries, Terminal Descent, and Chronicle Mysteries, Helped to Death.
Yes.
Dun dun.
Dun dun dun. All right, guys, where do you guys want to start?
Well, I mean, let's start with the first one that aired, right? And Ships in the Night, Martha's.
Go from the beginning.
Okay.
January 17th, something around there.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. I'm going to read the summary just to refresh our memories because it's kind of been a while. Former detective Jeff Jackson teams up with local doctor to investigate the murder of an art gallery manager. This is the summary according to Google, and that's probably the shortest summary I've read in a while.
That's the extra cliff notes.
Yeah, that's the cliff version. And done. We're moving on. No, I'm just kidding. Jeff is played by Jesse Metcalf, and Z is played by Sarah Lind. So let's dive in. Jeff and Z, they have this thing, this mystery they're kind of starting to build. This is what, movie number 3 series. We had A Beautiful Place to Die. We had Riddled with Deceit and Ships in the Night. Thank you, IMDb.
Thank you.
Yeah, but their chemistry starting to kind of like...
It's there.
It's there. Yeah, it's there. What do you all think about Jeff and Z at this point?
Jess?
I thought they had really good chemistry in this movie. I will say I don't think the Martha's Vineyard has been like my favorite of the series, but I was definitely feeling their chemistry in this one.
Yeah, okay, so I like these. Each new installment that we get, I like it better and better. I think it has built on each other to really create this like community in this town where we're starting to see regulars now and people who pop in and out. But I really do like Jeff and Dr. Z together. I think that they are cute. I think in this one, we found out they had some high school history, which they kind of hinted at before, but I never knew they had kissed, in high school, which they told us that story, this movie. And so I liked it. I think they're sweet. I like how forward he is and wanting to like actually go on a date with her, but it just never seemed to work out, in this movie.
I know.
I like
Poor
her
guy.
though.
Yeah, I like that. It was kind of they seem more like a relatable couple in a sense. Like she is a career woman, he is also a career guy, and they're just like like the title, they're ships in the night.
I got that too. I was like, oh, they just can't make this date happen. Like ships in the night is their relationship.
That's very clever. Yeah, they're a very natural, kind of authentic couple, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about all the players and all the suspects. I'm just gonna run through the list. We have Britt. Britt is Z's bestie. We have Jackie Shaw. She is the reporter turned real estate agent.
Apparently.
Which I was like, that's random. We have the chief, who is Z's dad. Then we have, then we get into everybody else. So we have Eli, who is a good friend of Z and the chief. We have Bernie. We have Adam. We have Lila. We have Dawn. We have Suzanne. We have Carl. All of these people. So let's start with Eli. Eli has this prototype, and he's really good friends with Z and the chief, and they're supposed to have lunch or something. And then
I think they have like a medical. They have a medical connection. Obviously, he has this lab and he's doing this prototype, and so she somehow, they're like, let's grab lunch. There's a huge age difference, so somehow they're connected medically. Like they're just colleagues or something like that, right? So I've never met Eli before, right? I mean, he was kind of a new guy on the scene in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like he was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he seemed more family friend. Like, it was kind of like that family friend connection.
Yeah.
Right. Say, how's your dad? You're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, no less than 2 minutes later, he is whacked.
He's dead.
He gets whacked. He gets whacked off the scene. And I'm not going to lie, I was like, really sad.
You wanted more.
He was so sweet. He was like the sweet grandfather, that you don't hurt him. He could be Santa.
He could be Santa. Well, I was just surprised by how, for Hallmark, how kind of graphic it was. I mean, he was like being like choked and then thrown out. And I'm like, is this Hallmark or am I watching CSI Miami again?
It was. You're right.
It was surprising.
We're 10 minutes into the movie. We've already had 2 dead bodies. 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that first opening scene in this dark kind of, you get that it's a museum, but it's so shadowy, and you see this person, and you see this piece, this museum piece, this boat, and so I was like, oh, there's our murder. But then we have Eli, and he was murdered too. And I was like, okay, we're really doing it here in Ships in the Night.
Apparently.
I mean, yeah, that was a little jolting to me. Like, both murders, like, bam. Okay, yeah, we're getting this kicked off, right? So along with Eli, we also have Dawn, who is Jeff's friend. We'll talk about Dawn a little bit later. We have Suzanne. Now, Suzanne is the lady who went to the art gallery and was like kind of feisty, right?
Very interested in that sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, too interested in the sculpture. What did y'all think about Suzanne?
Well, I mean, right away, you're suspicious of Suzanne because she comes in, she wants to buy the sculpture. They say it's actually already been purchased. And this was the same sculpture we saw in the opening scenes, this boat, part of a boat series called Boats in the Wind, I think. So Suzanne sees this and she's like, oh, I love this. I would like it. I came all the way from Palo Alto. And they're like, I'm so sorry, that's not for sale. And she was like, I'll pay you double. Like, immediately she shows her cards and saying that, oh, she doesn't, she's not just an art appreciator. She wants this piece for some reason.
She is serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. She is dead serious. I felt... We're all for the puns here tonight, guys. We're all here for the puns. I felt right away Suzanne was a red herring. It was way too obvious. That was me.
Okay. I have a thing about Suzanne though, because I totally believed it was her. Not from the beginning. So from the very beginning, the very start, I suspected Lila, but then I switched to Suzanne. Follow my theory here.
Yeah, go for it.
Because usually I don't go for someone who's like kind of set up to be an obvious person. But there was that whole thing when I think Carl was a sculpture maker, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they met him, and he talked about how he had switched to a new metal for his pieces to make them lighter. And then she had this weird rash. And I'm like, oh, she's allergic to the metal. She's connected to the sculpture. She has to be involved in the murder. That's my connection. I was so convinced. And then I was clearly should have stuck with my original guess.
Right. Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. Honestly, there were so many people. I was trying to figure out the storyline for so many people that I was confused for a while, to be honest. And I don't feel like I'm a dummy here, but there were just so many stories to keep in line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
for sure. I mean, Jess, that theory completely makes a ton of sense because I cannot wear I can't wear fake jewelry.
Oh yeah.
I break out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like on my neck, if I wear a necklace that's not real, or like earrings, I would especially when I was younger. So the next whatever mystery, Jess, that's all you.
Okay.
You can
I'm gonna write this one.
Fine.
I was like, it would have been so great if that would have been so clever. I'm like, no, of course not.
So clever. All right. Well, since we dove right into the art gallery, let's talk about Lila and Bernie. So Lila is the gallery owner. Bernie is more of the brains behind the operation. Mm-hmm. Bernie is also married to Derek. So Lila is a sweet little old lady here, and she's, trying to be all helpful and everything, and she's just, bopping about. Then we have Bernie and Derek. They are obviously having some issues, to say the least.
Yeah, some marriage problems.
Slight marriage problems there.
Someone's a workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's the jealous type, mm-hmm. Kind of suspecting her having affairs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Which weren't unfounded.
Yes, as I said that, he's but he was a little crazy about it.
Yes, he had a very poor reaction to that news.
He was, yeah. So what did y'all think about Bernie and Derek?
I was not expecting Bernie to be the one that we saw dead at the beginning. Was I? Did they show her pretty clearly? It's still
they showed like part of a person, I think.
Part of a person. So it was like, oh, that's her. She's dead. So he was a little scary to me, I think, as a husband. Mm-hmm. He seemed all affectionate and stuff, but then he kind of turned on and off his emotions really easily, kind of very creepily. So, right?
Yeah.
Became a little homicidal,
I mean, did you guys think that Derek did you have suspicions on Derek? Was he high on your suspect list? Or was he too of kind of...
I already laid out my cards. He wasn't my suspect.
I mean, he was, yes. When he, he was pretty convincing the waterworks with the police when they were saying Bernie's dead. And he was like, what? Oh my goodness, I was here all night. I had these beers. And then you could hear his lies just unraveled the whole movie. He wasn't telling the truth about one thing, then he wasn't telling the truth about the other thing. But he gave himself away when he, the police left, and then he looks just like dry-eyed, and he just is has this cynical look on his face. I mean, they meant for him to be on my suspect list, and he definitely was because of that.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me to suspect him as for more, but I totally did.
Yeah, they definitely. they definitely played him up. I mean, he too was kind of too much of a red herring to me. I was like, I feel like this is going to be more of a crime of passion. But
Yeah.
considering who's died so far, I don't know how they're connected. So I kind of in a sort of roundabout way called the whole shooting at Jeff in Dawn's van. Come to find out, Derek thought that Dawn was having an affair with
Yes.
Bernie, which was not the case at all.
Mhm.
They were business partners. And so I did call that one. Dawn still high on my suspect list. I'm not going to lie. I was a little wary about the fact that like he just so happened to leave the island and just so happened to forget his phone in his van.
He was pretty shady. I will agree.
So happened to be like carting the art pieces, the boats in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what he was taking to the docks or to Boston, and you know, so his hands were kind of all over this crime scene. It seemed like.
Yeah, it really did. And then he came back, and when he came back for me, I was like, oh. The fact that you were actually shot at makes me say that you're maybe not. But then at the same time, I'm like, but you know, some of the times these writers really pull one on you. So I mean, like he went from like number 1 to maybe number like 2 or 3.
Right.
Because another suspicious person was Adam, who was Lila's client. What do you all think about Adam? He was high on mine because he just, first of all, I kind of saw who in when Eli was murdered, you could see a man.
Yes.
And I was like, that's totally Adam. That is totally Adam. But I could not figure out how the pieces were connected.
Right.
I just couldn't figure out how he would be, how or why he would kill Bernie. That was kind of my
Yeah. I mean, Adam was only a suspect to me, really, because he's just one of those actors on Hallmark that you're like, oh, he's been in that thing. He was in that Mystery 101. Oh, he was in Gourmet Detective. Oh, you know, like he's so recognizable to me, although I cannot tell you his name. I'm sorry about that. But I was like, oh, it's that guy. I wonder if I should suspect him. You know, like otherwise I didn't kind of get a connection either. Did you, Jess? Was that clear to you?
I don't know if I quite like figured out his total involvement, but I suspected him when I think he and Lila were having like lunch or something, and he asked about Bernie's murder or something. He asked how the investigation was going, and I'm like, why does he care? And I did suspect 2 killers, and so I'm like, okay, I think it might be him and I already forgot the other girl's name that I suspected the whole time. Suzanne.
Oh, Suzanne.
Sorry.
I was thinking it was him and Suzanne were the 2 killers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, guys. I think we've kind of, in a crazy roundabout way, covered all of the suspects.
Well, I mean, have Carl.
That's true.
Carl.
We do have Carl, the sculptor maker dude. He wasn't high on mine just because, like, he was the one that was having the affair with Bernie. I was like, well, why would he kill somebody? Like, if anybody, he would go after Derek.
Yeah. We didn't know that for a little while, though, that he was the one having the affair. And so, you know, he had a weird reaction when it said that she died, and it was, you kind of go, oh, did they know each other better than what he said? But yeah, he's the artist who created these ships in the night, or boats in the wind. Sorry. The sculpture pieces, which were really cool, actually. They were really beautiful pieces. So anyway, okay, done with the suspects. He's on the list, kinda, but not really.
Yeah. All right, guys. Ready for the big reveal? Dun, dun, dun! The murderer was Lila, the sweet little lady from the gallery. What?
Not so sweet anymore.
Not so sweet anymore. So I So in my notes, I actually wrote down when I suspected her, which I think was like the last 45, 30 minutes. But this is what I said. My final predictions, and I wrote it down here.
Evidence.
Lila and Adam. Adam killed Eli for the prototype to sell and profit. Lila was upset with Bernie and Don leaving. So I thought she was upset for Bernie and Don leaving and hired Adam to murder Bernie.
Ooh.
And Adam was smuggling the money to China. So that's how I thought Lila was just the mastermind. And then she hired Adam to kill off both Eli and Bernie.
Yeah.
So I was like kind of half right.
Kind of half right. You get points for that, Kaycee.
Points! Yay! Points! But Lila. And here's the other thing too. In this movie, at the end, there's actually 3 people murdered.
Mm-hmm.
There was.
Because
that was super freaky, though, by the way, how they replayed Lila's involvement in all of this. Actually, like, she turned just super creepy really fast. Like, in those, I was like, yikes. You know, she's kind of like laughing when they caught her on the boat, and she's like, oh, you scared me. I was just little did we know she just murdered Adam and like put him over the side of the boat and hit him on the head and stuff like that. And she was super, super creepy. But I'm curious, Jess, you said you suspected her first, but then like abandoned that. So what made you suspicious of her at first? Because she really kind of played that off well, that she was like, I'm lost without Bernie, you know, like Bernie was the brains behind this whole thing. And
I think it was just a gut instinct. It was just like, ooh, wouldn't it be kind of interesting if this older woman was the murderer? Because you wouldn't suspect it. And then I abandoned that because of my crazy metal theory.
Right. And so Lila's motivation in all of this, guys, was money, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was money, keeping her gallery open, like getting the, I don't know. Help me out here.
I don't know. I got really confused in this movie following the plot of because I was really confused as to how the dialysis machine little thing ended up in the sculpture, and I got very confused.
Yeah. There were a few details. We only do know that this dialysis medical like contraption thing that Eli was developing in his lab could be worth tons of money. Tons and tons of money. And so thus they were like people were trying to smuggle it out to a tech company in China. People, meaning Suzanne and Adam, maybe together. But Eli, because of how kind he was, he's such a good guy he wanted to make it available to the public,
accessible for everybody,
for free, right? So she saw her chance. Suzanne saw her chance to try to get rich off of this. Plus, she needed it because she's sick, right? So, but it all got like everyone just got greedy over this device, this medical device that he was making. So there was like smuggling, and there was art, and there was medical things, and money, and passion, and I mean, they threw everything at us here in Ships in the Night.
They really did.
They really, really did. And I have here in my notes that, like y'all said, Adam was going after Eli for the prototype because he wanted a quick get-rich scheme, and he was using Lila to smuggle the pieces through the art so that he can make millions off of it. And then Bernie knew too much because she knew the weights, and because she was a stickler for the details. And so she figured out that they were smuggling things, didn't appreciate that, was probably going to turn them in, and Lila whacked her off the scene so that she could still get her cut of the money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was the fact that the alarm gave it away.
Right. They're trying to figure out, kind of retrace the steps of this Bernie's death in the museum. And they realized the alarm was it went off when Z found or saw the dead body through the window the next day. She threw a chair through the door and the alarm went off. And they're like, well, if this was an intruder, why would the alarm be set?
They set the alarm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is smart. I feel like I should have caught that. I feel like I should have caught that.
Those small details that trip us up.
Tiny details. Yeah.
No. They were throwing things at you. You were still trying to process the, something else. I mean, where was Dawn? You were still trying to process something else. So.
There's a lot going on. Yeah. We can't focus on whether the alarm was set or not.
Right.
Which, real quick, by the way, the one thing about this movie, as we go into our overall thoughts about this movie, I thought this was a great movie. I really fully enjoyed it. My husband and I watched it together. He really enjoyed it too. I mean, well, he liked it. Okay, that's what he'll tell you.
Let the record show he really enjoyed it. Keep that on there.
But I will say the one thing about this movie that I was kind of like, seriously, nobody was looking for Eli. Like, what the heck, y'all? I mean, like Z and Chief and Eli, they're having this grand old conversation. She's like, we'll have lunch tomorrow. And granted, this is like, what, 2 or 3 days prior? Yeah. And then we get caught up to present day. He's been dead.
He's been dead.
Well, she had to cancel her lunch, which is how it ended up getting extended. She canceled the lunch on him.
But still, she still could have been like, hey, how's it going? I don't know. Nobody was
still alive.
Nobody went to the police and said, hey, we haven't heard from Eli in a few days. Somebody could do a drive-by through his house. Like, does he have like some medical issues that maybe we don't know about? Like, they didn't have the whole help I've fallen and I can't get up little life alert thing. I mean, come on, look for the man. That was just my thing.
It was unfortunate when she halfway in the movie goes, Eli, like, we've got to get to his house, and he's already been dead for a while. Yeah, that was sad. This guy, he could have been Santa. I mean, that's what you said, Kaycee, right?
Yeah, exactly. He could have been Santa. All right. Well, what were your overall thoughts on this movie?
I overall enjoyed it. I really did like it. There was a lot of action. Obviously, it kept me guessing, and I thought they had really good chemistry. There's a couple like technical things. I just have to say, as a forensic science major, the fact that nobody wore gloves and was touching everything just drove me up the wall. But all the technical stuff aside, I thought it was a really solid movie. I gave it 4 out of 5.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as the mystery goes, tons of suspects, 3 murders, lots of action, lots of twists and turns, a little confusing. Like that was fine. But as far as being the 3rd installment of the Martha's Vineyard mysteries, I really liked it. I really did. I thought it gave us a lot more character development with the regulars that we like. Bob, the Marina coffee shop owner, he had more screen time. Jackie Shaw had more screen time. And then we heard more of Jeff Jackson's story about how he got hurt and was forced into early retirement from the police department. We saw more from Z herself even. And then they went on a date at the end and even kissed at the end. Like, so there were those elements to me. They kissed. So those elements to me really bolstered this movie, even though maybe the mystery was a little wacky. I liked it because of these other elements too. So I gave it a 4 out of 5 as well. 4 out of 5 stars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I feel like this has been consistently good. I like the first one. I like the second one. I like this one. So I really hope that this one continues and that it just stays really like a good, solid story. Yeah. One thing I really want to touch base on really fast is Jeff's backstory, because in the first movie we see him having the nightmares and we only see just a little bit of what happened that night that his partner died. Then the next movie it builds, and then this movie it built even more. I'm just wondering, because we were introduced to Nelson Wong's character, who is Detective Andy Lau, and Jeff kind of put it together that it might have been an inside job. And I am kind of wondering, do you guys think that Andy has something to do with that?
That's a good theory, because Andy didn't have anything new, to tell Jeff. Like, Jeff was like, hey, just checking in. Do you have anything new on the investigation? He's like, no, but when I do, you'll be the first to know. That's a good point.
You might be onto something, Kaycee.
I don't know, because I don't think we've met him. I don't think we met that character. I think this was the first movie that we've seen him. So I was kind of like, why are we coyly introducing this new character when we've been talking about Jeff and his background? Which I do think it will be really cool if this just builds into like Jeff solving his own mystery,
Oh yeah. I bet it's
And so,
I've not read these books. Have you guys?
No.
oh, I didn't even know they were books.
I think they're based on books.
Oh,
I believe that's right. Yeah.
yeah.
I think there's quite a few of them, actually.
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's keep this going, Hallmark. Let's give us more here. This is
For sure. This one was a good one. I look forward to seeing if my theory pans out.
You heard it here first, sleuthers. Kaycee's got the scoop.
Yes.
Maybe.
Jackson Shaw called me on the case.
On the case, Kaycee.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. They're the good folks over at the Bundle Game and Hardy's Ass Bundle Listen. From the creators of the Countdown to Christmas Hallmark Channel board game, there's now an official When Calls the Heart board game. Test your When Calls the Heart knowledge, recall your favorite show moments, and celebrate season 8.
This game is so much fun. Like the name 4 card, name your 4 favorite episodes of When Calls the Heart.
Not sure if I could narrow it down to just 4.
Or this acted out card, Love Triangle.
That's a fun one.
You can have these and many other cards in this fun game, When Calls the Heart board game. You can get your game at www.thebundlegame.com. Enter code Hallmarkies Podcast for free shipping. That's both words, Hallmarkies Podcast, free shipping. It's really fun. All kinds of trivia and fun stuff about your favorite show. So make sure to check out the When Calls the Heart board game at the www.thebundlegame.com. Enter code Hallmarkies Podcast for free shipping.
Okay, so second movie of the last 2 months, Crossword Mysteries Terminal Descent, starring Lacey Chabert and Brennan Elliott and Barbara Niven, which today is the 26th we are recording, and it's actually Barbara Niven's birthday. So happy birthday, Hallmark Mom.
Happy birthday!
Hey.
All right, so Crossword Mystery Terminal Descent. Crossword Puzzles editor Tess Harper teams up with Lieutenant Logan O'Connor to investigate the murder of an engineer who designed a supercomputer. So, again, key players, we have Tess, we have Logan, we have Aunt Candace, we have Chauncey, who is Logan's dad, and we also have Frank, who is Lacey's assistant. I've noticed the last several mysteries we do this time jump thing, right? So like
yeah,
we start in the certain day and then we backtrack 3 days, or we go forward 3 days or whatever. So I think that's an interesting element. This one was interesting because we saw like we saw the introduction of all these different characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Morgan Daniels, who's the CEO, the engineer, the brains of the supercomputer, go into the elevator, right? And then it kind of like backtracks again, right? And so I think that's a really interesting storytelling technique, especially for mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The fun thing is that this movie was directed by Peter Benson.
Peter Benson. Yeah.
Who's our awesome Arthur from Aurora Tea Garden. And so you know that he has this insight. He's been on these mystery sets for so long. I mean, he's a seasoned actor and now director, producer maybe. But that was just so cool and so interesting to know that. And like, why did he make that choice? Why did he do this? And kind of see it because I was invested in who he was, you know? I love that.
I think it really worked for this movie though, because I think that it works best when the time jump is leading up to something very dramatic. And I felt like this had that element because you're kind of then when you go back, you're kind of waiting for, okay, is it going to happen? And you can really play on in it if you put red herrings of when it's going to happen and then it doesn't happen. I've seen that before in like more of like actual mystery shows and things like that off Hallmark. And that's really a good way to build that suspense. And so I think that worked here because the free fall of that elevator was pretty dramatic. And can I just say, Terminal Descent, I love that title. That is such a nice title.
It is such a good title, especially
Terminal Descent. Can I tell you something though? This is a little tiny bit embarrassing. I thought it would be set at an airport. I was definitely ready to see the airport mystery. Everyone's on lockdown. All at the airport. Terminal Descent. But as soon as that elevator, Morgan, it makes sense, right? I was so disappointed.
Yeah, totally.
But Morgan gets in the elevator and the supercomputer BB has his voice recognition, and so he should be able to tell her, take me to the parking garage, take me to floor 1 or whatever. But she doesn't obey his voice commands. She does her own thing. And, the elevator drops however many stories and it's a terminal descent. I mean, like it literally is that. No airplanes.
It is what it says it is.
Yeah. No airplanes were harmed in the making of this movie, just elevators.
So sad.
And the other thing too with this movie is like the first 2 minutes are from Morgan Daniels' POV, his point of view, and then they switch it back to Tess Harper's point of view, or like third whatever. What is it called? Third POV, omniscient. I don't remember the technical term. But
third person omniscient, maybe.
Yeah. But anyways, I think I like that too because like we're seeing it from different angles. Because the next time around, we see all the people, right? So let's go into all
the people.
All the people. Which, by the way, there are a ton of the Hallmarkies Podcast friends on here, like Hardy Wong and Debs Howard and Matthew James Dowden and Brandy Alexander. Like, this was just filled with recognizable faces all over this movie, which was kind of fun.
So according to Kari's theory, we should immediately suspect all of them because they're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I was like, oh no, Brandy Alexander. She did it. You guys, I bring the smarts to this podcast. So, first of all, though, I do want to say, why Lacey or Tess Harper ends up at the scene of the crime, because that's always like a thing. Like, why is she even there? But she was scheduled to go head to head, woman against machine, BB in a crossword puzzle match.
Showdown.
Right? Like a showdown. So they were doing this, I don't know if it was a fundraiser or this showcase or whatever of her skills versus the computer skills. But she was there to meet BB, the computer, and meet Morgan at XCal and stuff. So she's there for that reason. And it definitely made me want to see the showdown, but we never got to see the woman versus machine.
I know. I was so disappointed by the fact. I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see what they come up with for that storyline. And then it didn't happen. It's like, aw.
That's the B-side of the DVD, I guess.
Bonus.
Flashback.
All right. So who was on, like, let's just go with like your top 3 suspects for this movie. Who were y'all suspecting?
My guess from the midway maybe was Paul, the vice principal, the vice president. Not vice principal. Viv was my secondary guess, but she was Tess's friend, and so I couldn't really commit to her as a guess. So I landed on Paul pretty much for most of this movie.
Good for you. I mean, I pretty much believe whoever they want me to believe at first. I was like, oh man, that plant guy, that guy who's like doing the plants, he has no idea about any of the plants. And I mean, it was totally him. No, I mean, I don't know. I definitely suspected Paul at the beginning, but I lost track of him because we were introduced to, all these different storylines and characters and ways it could go. Patricia, the wife of Morgan, the guy who died, she for sure was a shady character. The girl he bumped into, they kept showing that over and over again. This girl he bumps into,
what's her name?
Layla
Barnes,
that's right.
Yeah. We don't know who.
And then Jesse.
Yeah.
Jesse, who skipped town for a little bit.
Jesse skipped town. Yeah. I mean, these were all people in these first 5 minutes, these scenes that we saw. So, I mean, as far as serious suspects go, I thought maybe the wife had some sort of insight. She wanted it. She wanted that.
Well, and she had the connection with the old business partner because she was leaving Morgan for him. So,
yeah. And it's kind of hard with these mysteries because you're kind of like, there's always a pattern, right? It's either a crime of passion where it involves lovers and then that's why the person gets murdered, or it's because of greed.
Yeah.
So for this one, for me, I was like, I feel like it could go either way because we get one little snippet of the to-be ex-wife.
Right.
And then that was it. And I was like, is she going to pop up again? Or is this really a red herring? Because there's so many other complicated pieces. I did suspect the VP. So Paul Renford, played by Matthew James Dowden, only because it's Matthew James Dowden.
You're following Carrie's theory.
I am.
There's something to it.
I mean, we're 2 for 2 here, so that's a pattern.
Totally is a pattern. And I mean, to be honest with you guys, Hallmark mysteries, they're going to need to start changing up their murderers, because I feel like there's a lot of repeats.
You mean the people who do the murdering?
Yeah.
We got some legit serial killers going across Hallmark, people.
How are we not onto this?
That's going to be there's going to be a crossover of 3 different mystery series. It's going to be epic and blow everyone's minds.
Yeah.
I'm going to write it.
This Lachlan. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kaycee.
Oh, I said, and done. Boom.
Thank you, Hallmark. I'll expect my check in 10 weeks.
But okay, Matthew James Dowden was the murderer in the last Martha's Vineyard mystery. So, that is why I was like, oh, he's suspicious, but then maybe not.
Yeah. I know. I understand that when you're kind of like, no, that's not this movie. This is he's a different character.
Right.
But, I mean, he was suspicious. As far as we're just sticking with this storyline and what they gave us here about Paul, he was the creator of BB, he really was the one who could change her controls. And he had immediate access to this elevator. So, for this murder. And he's the one who put Tess's voice in preparation for this showdown or whatever, this woman versus machine crossword showdown. He programmed her voice, and so she could say hi BB, and BB could recognize her and stuff like that. So I mean, with limited access, he really did set himself up for there weren't many other suspects with good reason to kill, right?
Another person on my suspect list was definitely Jessie Alexander, because she skips town. But then again, it's like, is this a red herring or is this like not? And I mean, I think this is what happens when you watch so many Hallmark mysteries and you know how the formulas go, right? And they could go either way. But when she's talking to Tess, I was like, I don't know. Especially when she reveals that Morgan Daniels is her father. And then it's like, wait a second. Are you trying to get his money? Like, did he screw you over and now you're like getting vengeance because you didn't know he was your dad until recently? Like, I don't know. So like, she was another one that I was kind of like, suspect.
I thought she was too suspicious to be the one.
Did you? Yeah. And now we do find out she did have a part in something, but she wasn't the killer. But she did have a part in the hard drive. They were trying to steal the hard drive, or she hired Layla, the pickpocket, didn't she? But they found her.
I don't remember, actually.
Okay, so she had some suspicious part. She might have killed Layla, because Layla ends up dead in an alley.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Logan comes in and finds they're looking for Layla because she was a temp hired by Jessie, and looking for her, finds her in an alley. Then he gets knocked unconscious. He gets knocked over the head, and sure enough we find out that is Jessie. But Jessie is innocent of her father's death. And she ends up talking with Tess and gets arrested. But Tess believes her that she wasn't part of that. So there were a lot of different runarounds, lots of different suspects.
Yeah. And going back to Logan getting knocked out, do you guys think that was a little anticlimactic? Like he gets knocked out and then it's like, oh, he's fine. I'm like, a little drama, play it up. He could be a little injured, right? A little injury helps him and Tess to bond, right? Because she's got to come see him.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
It was kind of getting the jump on our detective. No one gets the jump on him.
Yeah.
I thought, as far as maybe we'll talk about this in a second here, Kaycee, as you lead us. But yeah, she was innocent. Jessie was. So Lila's dead. She was innocent. We have these two friends from MIT that Morgan was friends with, that they're out of the picture now. Jessie's mom, who died in a car crash years ago. And then this other friend, Gregory, I think.
Gregory Sackett, the guy in the hospital.
Who ends up, we find out, is sick, terminally ill. And he's being visited at the hospital by Morgan. So he's a little suspicious, but not really. I mean, he's a sick guy, and you just kind of see that the friends reconnected late in his life. So
yeah, I wasn't too suspicious of Gregory. I kind of had a feeling that's where it was going. Like that Morgan was visiting him in the hospital, I figured he was visiting a friend or a confidant or whatever. And then when they brought up Gregory, I was like, I bet you it's him. So I was like, okay, I think I'm good here. Real quick, funny moment of this movie that made me kind of laugh out loud is the motorcycle club gang.
Yes, I love that moment.
My husband was like, this would like never happen in real life. Especially when Logan's walking up and he's like ready to like bust a move. And then he walks in and Tess is talking and all the guys are surrounding her and they're like,
they're just enamored by her.
I thought that was kind of a fun touch.
Yeah, I agree. That was a fun scene.
But she like wows them with her Motorhead knowledge. She's just like all in with these motorcycles, and then they like instant respect. They respect her, and
she knows the bikes. So
yeah,
that's bike, and she does the info out of them that Logan never could. So I mean, it worked for me.
And it works in Logan's favor as well. So, the big reveal. Logan goes to the tech company and he goes to return the hard drive to none other than Paul Renford, who does a 180. Dun dun dun! And pulls out the gun. He's the murderer, just as I suspected and just suspected. And Kari, you suspected too. We all kind of suspected.
After the plant guy, but yes.
Kari got there eventually.
Got there.
That's all that matters. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the ending to the whole movie was really sweet because there was this whole other storyline with Logan worrying about his dad, about Chauncey, and like whether or not he was going to retire, and like if he did retire, what would he do? If he didn't retire, what wouldn't he do? So there's that whole thing, which I could totally relate to. Because like my parents just retired. They were both nurses, registered nurses for the last like 45 years, like forever. And like I know my dad tried to retire and then he went back to work. But then the pandemic happened, which actually happened at a great time because it actually forced my parents to retire. So yeah, I could totally relate to that child-parent relationship and worrying about like your parents' future. But I really thought the party at the end was super, super sweet.
Yeah, so that's kind of the B story going on all in the background, and kind of have the aunt come in and out again, and she related to Chauncey well, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one quick thing before we wrap up, that we learned 2 surprising pieces of information that I thought kind of came out of left field in this movie. At least I don't think they've ever hinted at this. It was that he was married and she had been engaged previously.
Yes. Yep.
I was like, wait, what?
They gave us more backstories. Yeah. About Logan and Tess.
How would you rate the Crossword Mystery Terminal Descent? I feel like Kari knocked it down like half a point for not being in an airport.
I did. I have that in my notes.
Should have been in an airport. Negative half
feedback.
A point.
Biggest feedback here. Should have been in an airport.
So, I mean, already it was starting at like a half a point down because of that. But I ended up with a 3 out of 5. I was wondering if I should even go down a tiny bit. Oh, it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite, just mystery overall. I was very distracted through the whole thing. But so I ended up with 3 out of 5 because I did like that ending. I thought that was really clever. I thought that kind of saved it for me. And I thought, oh, it left me well. 3 out of 5.
Yeah. Jess?
So I actually gave it lower. I gave it 2 out of 5. I liked the beginning, the very beginning and the very end, but everything in between it didn't captivate me. It didn't hold my attention. And I did find that surprising because up until this point, I've really enjoyed Crossword Mysteries. I really liked it as a series. And again, too, like I said, I did expect more from their relationship. And again, I don't know if that was early COVID filming. They just didn't want them being close or whatnot. But this one just didn't captivate me. So 2 out of 5.
I gave this one 3 out of 5 just because Abracadaver was so good.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. And then following that kind of fell a little flat for me. The other thing that I'm kind of really disappointed in is the fact that they're not using puzzles. Like, they didn't really use a puzzle in this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the whole point of Crossword Mystery is to, like, I don't know, incorporate a crossword or some.
Which is why they should have had the showdown. That would have been the tie-in.
Yeah, or something like a code breaker, or like what are those little boxy things? You know, like in Signed Sealed, where Norman has the little box, the treasure box. What are they called?
I don't know. I think those might just be called puzzle boxes. But what you were describing first, I think it's called a codex, right?
Well, yeah, codex. And then I was talking about like, like I feel like these mysteries should have some kind of element, whether it's like a codex or one of those little mystery puzzle boxy things where you have to like finagle it or whatever. I don't know, a logic problem that's super, super complicated. Like, I don't know if you guys did that in elementary school where they'd give you the
a killer
logic
that leaves
thing.
riddles.
Do what?
Like I said, a killer that leaves riddles. It'll be like Unlocking Christmas, the mystery version.
That would be cool.
I'm full of story ideas right now. Apparently, this is my hour.
This is Jess's hour. Hallmark, hire this girl.
Hallmark, take some notes. I'll expect my royalties.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope that they kind of spiced it up a little bit in the next crossword mystery.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, our final mystery of today is Chronicle Mystery Helped to Death, starring Allison Sweeney and Benjamin Ayres. Alex and Drew investigate a self-help retreat and the controversial life coach who oversees it. All right, you guys, I have to be straight up here. When we started going into this like life coach camp with all the little medicines or whatever, I totally thought it was some like crazy MLM cult scheme. And if you don't know what an MLM is, I don't have anything against MLMs. I have lots of friends who are in MLMs. It's a multi-level marketing like company. Like the first thing that came to mind with this one was Plexus or like It Works with the wraps or whatever. Beachbody is an MLM. Mary Kay is an MLM. It's basically you have this one person and then they recruit all these people to sell products under them so then they can get more money. So that's what an MLM is, in case you didn't know. But when we entered into this camp, I was like, oh my gosh, we're about to go into some crazy MLM cult. This is a little cultish for me.
Yes. Well, I was going to ask you guys. So this Garrett Vision Retreat. So Billy Garrett is the this visionary, and he just helps people better themselves, I guess. So he sells these supplements. He does physical challenges. He has these visionary talks and vision boarding to like just help people find their motivation, I guess. So this is all of his retreat thing that he does. Well, backstory on him, and I like that this is why Alex went to the retreat, seeing a potential story for her podcast. Because the backstory on him was that, like, someone died at his previous retreat for kind of like a negligent oversight on his part, a negligent murder, because they weren't feeling well. They were on a hike. He kept saying, "Go, push yourself, go, go, go," and someone died. So he does jail time, feels like he learned from that, and is coming back doing the same thing, like wants to launch the same relaunch or whatever himself, right?
That's what's surprising is that people are coming to this thing after all of that. I'd be a little suspicious.
Yeah. Well, that's
jumping to join this.
I mean, that's why I thought it was like a cult following.
And it kind of was, because everyone had a story on how Billy helped saved them. And they kept using this savior type of language. You know, Billy saved me. I don't know where I'd be without him. Oh, he saved me this. He saved me that. So he did have this quality. He was just he wasn't a sinister guy. Although you're kind of supposed to see him as that. He really was just this narcissistic visionary leader guy, right? Who just was like not really caring about the people around him, except he was making money off of them. And they like loved him. They loved him. So anyway, Alex goes to this retreat, and then Drew follows her, which I think was kind of cute. But and then the breakdown of these characters or these suspects was crazy. Nobody was likable. Anyway, I was going to ask you one other question, but I don't need to say anything else right now.
Well, one thing before we dive into some of the characters is do we know if this was filmed last year during pandemic? Because it certainly felt like that, just because it was outside it was very like clustered, like the same 20 people were in like all the scenes, and then you had Drew's daughter still back at the office, and then you like there wasn't a lot of interaction with a lot of other people, and it was very outdoorsy based. So I mean, if it was filmed in 2020, good on them, because that's got to be really tricky to do, especially when there's a lot of outside scenes, which I felt this movie had. But yeah, I mean, did that strike you guys as odd, or did it kind of stick out to you? Because it definitely stuck out to me.
I didn't think of it at all.
No. Actually, it's funny because Jess and I had just watched and reviewed an Up movie about a retreat, and
The love story to yoga?
Yes. It was very similar in that regard, like this particularly small cast in a location, and they're all kind of like separate, and you're over there and I'm over here and stuff, like, and that was years ago. I think that was made a couple years ago. So that it just seemed like a retreat to me, right?
Yeah.
Jess?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see anything unusual with it, but
yeah. I mean, I didn't see anything unusual. It just stuck out to me just because of all our circumstances right now. And I was like, well, I mean, that's one way to make a movie. Make it outside.
Right.
Just set it out in the woods.
Insert some turkey calls.
Yeah. Turkey calls. Let's talk about turkey calls. Zach is this very enthusiastic, gung-ho, like, hire me tomorrow. Like, actually, you should have hired me yesterday, and here's my resume, except I can't start until next week because I'm going to a retreat. I hope that in future movies he stays on, because he is such a fun character. Once I was like less suspicious of him, because at first when he came on really strong, I was like,
yeah. He was in a Christmas movie this year, and it was the first time I'd seen him. I really enjoyed him. Good Morning Christmas, I believe.
Oh, was he he came on as he got to produce for like the last 2 minutes of their segment?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. And also with Allison Sweeney.
Look at that.
Boom, there's that connection. But yeah, I hope he stays on. I think he and Kendall would be super fun together.
Matchmaker.
Yeah. Yeah. But he goes on this retreat, and he is assigned to room with Daniel. What did you guys think of Daniel? And did you think that his ending, did you have any suspicions that was gonna happen? Like, that spoiler alert, he's the one that actually is murdered. Did you guys, like, I didn't think he was gonna get murdered. I thought that Billy Garrett was gonna get murdered, because like that's usually how these things go. Like, you know, this guy is kind of trying to go for redemption, and then he doesn't get his redemption because he gets murdered because of something else. Dun, dun, dun. But yeah, I did not see Daniel getting murdered. I thought he was going to be like either the murderer or a really, really obvious red herring.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily see it coming anyway, or either. Not anyway. I don't even think I really thought about who was going to get killed. I was more thinking about, okay, who should I be suspecting for the murder that had not yet happened.
Whenever I watch these movies, I'm always like, oh, they're gonna get whacked. They're gonna get whacked. Just watch.
That's funny. Okay, so the very opening scene of this movie is Daniel at the is this Daniel character. We don't know who it is yet, but it's showing him do a few things at this retreat center. He's carving something in a tree. He's in his tent. He's looking at his soon-to-be roommate's name, Zach, on the next bed over or whatever. So they're really setting him up to be like, oh, he's suspicious. And then Zach goes to the retreat, and you see that he's the roommate, and you're like, oh no, he's the roommate with that guy. I don't know what I feel about that guy yet. And then he gets murdered. And I looked at my daughter and I was like, wait, is that Daniel? Did Daniel get murdered? And she was like, yeah, that's Daniel. And I was like, oh. well, that was anticlimactic a little bit. Like I was ready to figure out like, oh yeah, Daniel's going to be killing all these people at the retreat. I don't know. But then it was him. It was him who died. So then you ask yourself, well, what did he know? Right.
Mm-hmm.
What did he know
Right.
to make him get murdered?
And apparently he knew too much. So, suspects. We meet Billy Garrett. We meet his wife, is it? Ivy.
Mm-hmm.
And then she gives the tour to Alex. We meet Kurt, who's like kind of like the camp head. He's like the right-hand man or whatever. And then we also have Marianne and Jack. Is this couple that's very, I don't know what's the word that could describe them. They're sweetly suspicious. They're like it's kind of like in Martha's Vineyard 2 with Johanna Newmarch and Matthew James Downan's character. Like they were a couple, and like they're just like off doing their own little thing. You'll see them here and there. And like in that movie, spoiler alert, they were the murderers. So in this movie, I was like, oh, Marianne and Jack. I mean, we're being introduced to these people. They appear to be very like, you know, in awe of Billy Garrett and how he quote unquote saved their lives or whatever. Like, could it be them? So I was actually like, I don't know. I was actually banking on Kurt. Once we got into the movie a lot more, just because I don't know, it wasn't feeling it with Marianne and Jack. I feel like they were more. I kind of felt like they were more of a red herring. So my money was on Kurt because he was just like he showed up at the most unexpected times. What do you guys think, Carrie?
Yeah, I definitely thought Kurt Hardy was so. He was a stickler for the rules. He showed up kind of like just was a creepy kind of showed up and eavesdropped a couple times, and so yeah, he was definitely one that I suspected, but really, I don't know. I thought maybe Billy after a while, but then I'm like, oh no, he's too much into himself. He wouldn't ruin his brand again.
Yeah.
What about you, Jess?
My guess was Ivy. Pretty early on, that was my gut guess. And so I always usually do like a gut guess, and then I sort of fact checked myself as I go. And for me, what continued to sell me on her is when we learned that she was an herbalist. And because I just knew this blue moth fungus thing, whatever that, like, it was mixed up in this. So I'm like, she's an herbalist. There's something there. And so that's what kept me, like, stuck me with her and continued to suspect her.
Yeah. Well, I saved Jess for last because I was actually texting her while I was watching this movie, and she had already watched it. So I already knew who she suspected. She didn't tell me, no spoiler alerts, but I was telling her like, oh, I don't know. I feel like Kurt is a thing. She's like, guess again. Because Ivy is the murderer.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, okay. No sound effect. Okay.
Oh, wait. Do it again.
Dun, dun, dun. I love these sound effects. But Ivy was like super under the radar.
Yeah,
and maybe that's the thing. I really should have known. I should have known because she was under the radar. She was all like, Billy, are you okay? When they discover that Daniel is dead, he had been quote unquote helped over the cliff, and like I should have suspected it, but she was pretty conniving. That was pretty good.
Jess, did you remember who was on the first hike? You know, that very first hike that they did, where Daniel is pushed over the cliff and he dies. Not everyone was on that hike. Ivy wasn't on the hike. I don't think. Kurt wasn't on the hike.
Kurt, I don't think
yeah.
was on the hike.
I don't really remember.
The guest.
I just know
Yeah.
Jack was.
Yeah.
Jack and Marion, obviously.
So, I mean, that probably should have been something I noticed, like who wasn't on the hike, who was, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I don't know. That kind of threw me a little bit. So one thing I didn't get, can we talk about this? I didn't understand the whole mystery about this spiral carved in a tree.
I didn't either. I was because they said it was because he was going to meet somebody, but I felt like they never established why he was meeting someone in the first place. And
Maybe, they did not establish that. They saw the same shape on the bottle of blue moth fungus pills that were being sold for $300 a bottle. But there was like, oh, this is the symbol on the tree. And I'm like, why was there a symbol on the tree? Why? Nobody knew, or nobody told me.
I thought it was just a hike marker.
Right, but why would he need, like, why did he need it? That's what was confusing for me. Why did he need to know to go there?
Oh, that is, yeah.
I didn't understand. I didn't understand it.
Hallmarkies, if you figured it out, tell us. We're confused. If you can't tell from our faces.
Very confused.
It could have been something, but it wasn't. Oh, one major clue, though, that they all kept talking about and trying to figure out was this boot, right?
Yes.
Footprint in the mud.
Yeah. Once they talked about that, I was like, and they were like leading it to be a man, I was kind of like, this is a red herring for sure. It's either a man with a small foot or a woman.
I mean, once they said something about the boots, did you guys remember the couple talk about like, oh, get your boots? And he's like, I didn't pack them. She's like, yes, I packed them for you. And he's like, I didn't know where they were. Like they had that little conversation at the beginning of the movie. And then,
I did not remember that.
Yeah. And then there was this whole boot thing. I was like, maybe he did.
Yeah.
Maybe he was the murderer, but he was.
My husband pointed that out. He was like, they talked about boots before. And I was like, but is that a red herring though? Because that's like, why would they go, hint, 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 let's talk about boots, wink, 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 and then him be the murderer, especially when he got arrested. I was like, oh no. But the way that Ivy basically kidnaps Alex, that was kind of intense. And then like,
so wait, she kidnapped her? Well, that's what happened? I was confused. No, I didn't understand what happened because I remember Alex running away and I thought Ivy was chasing her in the golf cart, but then Alex pops out of the golf cart and I'm like, how did she get in the golf cart?
No. They were in the craft tent.
mm-hmm.
And Ivy comes at her with a thing and we don't see what happens. So the next time we see her, she's unconscious and bloody in the golf cart.
Yeah.
So it's implied that Ivy knocked her out, put her in the golf cart.
Oh, I thought they showed her running. I don't know why I got the impression she had run out. I don't know.
I think they were, she was kind of trying to defend herself. Like they started doing the whole shuffle moving back thing as like Ivy's coming at her. So that might
maybe I just totally misread the scene. Apparently. Thank you for clearing this up. I was super confused.
Yeah. So she takes her to that same place to kill her, just like she killed Daniel. And I mean, Alex is all over that. She's like, no. People will not believe this is an accident again. The same thing. They're totally going to suspect you, So she's trying to talk her down, but she's freaked out.
She got crazy.
She did. So why did she kill? Why did she kill? What was her story for why she killed Daniel in the first place?
because he had the information that the blue moth fungus, they had increased the levels of the fungus or something, and it was actually harmful.
Mm-hmm.
To, like, a certain percentage of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were hiding that fact.
Yeah, and she was
It's
so
gonna expose them.
and she was so loyal to Billy Garrett because again, Billy Garrett saved her too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like super. I don't know. The whole like I said, it was kind of cultish. This whole thing here, it was super weird to me. The one thing, and I will say, I docked this half a point because of a missed opportunity. I was so sure when Alex was like hanging on the edge of the cliff practically with Ivy like coming at her. I was so sure Alex was going to do a turkey call. And I thought Zach was going to come up and save the day.
That would have been so good. Oh my gosh, Kaycee.
Because I was like, why did Zach bring up a turkey call? Like, writers usually don't throw random things out there. Like, they say things
Right.
on purpose. Like, no word is wasted in a film. Like,
Because it was mating
word-
season, Kaycee, okay?
But seriously, I really thought she was going to do a turkey call. And
now I'm mad too, because that would have been so good.
Yeah. She does the turkey call, Zach distracts, and then Drew tackles. Like, it would have been the perfect arrest. What about you guys? What did you guys think about this movie, and how many stars would you give it?
Okay, I'll go first. I really liked it. Again, I found it surprising the for these 3 movies that we've talked about today, the order that I've liked the series like up until this point is like the reverse of what I've actually enjoyed about the movies that we've seen. So this was my favorite out of all 3. And I thought it had good energy. I thought it was super funny with like the turkey calls and the vision board that was double as a murder board. Like, it had all those fun elements. They had some good chemistry moments, like when they played Would You Rather and he said pause because I like this moment right here. Like, they had a lot of good things going on. So I gave it 4.25. I gave it pretty high.
Oh.
4.25.
Oh, hey.
That's good. I like that you brought up the humor of it. We haven't talked about that yet. There were so many humorous moments and just like little lines, but they weren't played really big. Like Benjamin Ayres had just a bunch of like these little lines that he would just throw out that totally got me. I thought they were so funny. So there were some comedic moments here in this movie, but it was interesting to me because I like when you go off scene, kind of, and they were at this retreat and everyone's a suspect and no one can use their electronics and stuff like that. Like, so I really liked this type of just scene that they set up, like, oh, what's going to happen? And so I liked the mystery about it, and I liked the development of the characters, Drew and Alex's relationship. I thought that was cute, just slow and steady. I mean, they are slow burn, but they're trying. So I like that. I gave it a 3 out of 5. My favorite was the very first one, was Martha's Vineyard, with a 4 out of 5. But so a 3 out of 5 for this one to me. Although there were elements I liked more, maybe a 3.5 because I gave the 3 to the last one. 3.5 for this. Jess, I thought you would like the horseback riding date into the sunset at the end.
Well, okay, I gotta say something about that. I was mad that it was just a moment. Like, you really didn't get to see it, and I felt bad too because I'm like, okay, tangent. This is Allison Sweeney. She is a legit equestrian.
Yeah.
Go to her Instagram.
Yeah.
You know how high level she can jump? Like,
yeah.
Give her a real horseback riding scene if you're going to give her one.
They did just kind of
I know this about her.
Yeah, she's a legit equestrian. I love seeing all her horse videos. So, yeah, as a fellow equestrian, I was like,
give her some screen time.
They needed a longer scene of riding. But I did appreciate it. I was like, oh, that's a little nice touch for the end.
Yeah.
I thought you
I
would
did like the ending. Yeah. I did like the ending. It was a really sweet way to end, I thought. I gave this a 3.75 out of 5. I like this. I definitely liked Martha's Vineyard best, and then this one, and then Crossword. It did keep me kind of giggling with the whole smuggling of the laptop. Like she's like shoving it under her vest, and then like they're like running, like, and I'm like, somebody's gonna see a square on your chest, right? I mean, unless it's like a giant puffer vest, but that kind of made me laugh. And then the whole like dream board, murder board thing, I was like, somebody's
Kitten in the
going to come in
sailboat.
your tent and somebody's going to turn this around and see that you're suspecting them, and then they're going to, I don't know, murder you. So yeah, definitely a lot of fun elements. And I think this series is also one of those other series that's consistently, good. I've liked every one of them that I've seen so far. So hopefully they continue that and we get to see a little bit more development with Alex and Drew. So yeah. All right. Hallmarkies, sleuthers, let us know how you felt about these 3 movies. To recap, they were Martha's Vineyard, Ships in the Night, Crossword Mysteries Terminal Descent that was not set in an airport, and Chronicle Mysteries Helped to Death. This month, we get 2 more mysteries. We get Aurora Tea Garden and Mystery 101. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
You can't tell which one we're really excited about.
And Mystery 101 is introducing a new character.
A familiar face.
Erin Cahill. Yeah.
And
As
she might be the murderer because I've seen her in other Hallmark movies.
And she's also the ex-wife. So
she's not the murderer. I bet you anything. She's
an FBI agent, right?
Yeah,
or something.
Hey, you never know.
She's a rogue agent. She's a rogue agent. Takes it into her own hands.
It could be a crime of passion. We'll see.
Or greed.
Well, stay tuned, guys, to the upcoming mysteries and let us know how you felt about these 3 movies. In the meantime, be sure to follow the Hallmarkies Podcast on Instagram and on Twitter. And be sure to follow us. Kari, where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram at Hallmark Comics. That's Hallmark_comics.
And Jess?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at JessBSWblog.
And you can find me on Twitter at Hallmark My Words. And also on any When Calls the Heart things, because it's When Calls the Heart season, which is not a mystery, but, there's that too. We're excited about all of these upcoming movies and series on the Hallmarkies Podcast, and we shall see you next time. Bye!